But let's get back to Australia now and that shocking anti-Semitic attack of a childcare centre at Sydney's Maroubra Beach. Here's a package filed earlier by Sky News' Caroline Marcus.
Authorities were called to the scene just before 1 a.m. overnight after a member of the public contacted 000 after noticing the fire. About 30 firefighters took under an hour to put out the blaze and did manage to protect the neighbouring premises here, but the building has sustained extensive damage. Now, this building is in the vicinity of the Maroubra synagogue, as well as a Jewish daycare centre, as well as being set alight. There was anti-Semitic graffiti scrawled across a wall of the building reading "F the Jews."
Yeah, Caroline Marcus all over it as usual. No direct connection between that childcare centre and the Jewish community, but it is right next to a synagogue. And as you heard, of course, those horrible anti-Semitic graffiti across the site. Let's bring in now Joel Burnie, who's with the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, joins us live from Melbourne. Thanks for joining us, Joel. We're getting attacks day after day now. They're getting increasingly violent, understandably. So many people are concerned that this could end in injury and death.
Well, another day, Chris, and another terrorist attack in Australia targeted at the Jewish community here. Now, I choose the word terror attack very, very carefully. The simple definition is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, specifically against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. And it is clear that not only this attack on the childcare centre in Maroubra yesterday, but also the attacks in Dover Heights late last week against Alex Rivchin's former premises, as well as the Newtown synagogue that didn't catch alight even though combustible liquid was doused on it. So this is definitely spiralled out of control. And it doesn't take a genius to identify the fact that if things progress without any significant intervention from authorities, including the federal government, that things are going to get worse and unfortunately someone will die.
It's just been terrible to watch. We've been talking about it on this program for over 15 months. We were calling for tougher action against the threats, against the hate speech from October the 7th, 2023. Yet governments have failed to act. And as you say, all this has escalated. We're now having repetitive domestic terrorism. Here's the New South Wales Premier today.
These anti-Semitic attacks are the opposite of the kind of country that we all want to live in. And I think civic society stands together condemning this appalling behaviour. I want to make it clear that this is atrocious. Right now, New South Wales Police are conducting a major investigation in relation to who is responsible for this vicious hate crime. It is completely disgusting. And these bastards will be rounded up by New South Wales Police.
Tough talk and hints of action now, more than 15 months on. National Cabinet, I understand, is meeting virtually as we speak, Joel. What can come out of that?
Well, look, Chris, there's lots that can come out of that. Finally, the meeting's being held after a week and a half of the Prime Minister saying that no, enough talk, we need action, we don't need talk. Essentially, again, rejecting a recommendation from his own appointed anti-Semitism envoy. But the hope is that there's a whole long laundry list of ideas that the Jewish community has consistently submitted to government for the past 15 years, including legislative reform, including increasing the resources to the policing authorities to give them everything that's required to stamp this out. From, stopping the incendiary comments from some senior cabinet ministers whose electorates happen to be in Western Sydney that are a little bit concerned of what's going to happen at the upcoming election. This toing and froing inside government and the position of the foreign minister in chastising Israel for its performance in its war over the past 15 months and completely tarnishing the bilateral relationship between Israel and Australia. Getting that back on track, using more coherent ideas and pursuing legislative reform to immediately stop this scourge from... Look, I don't recognise this country anymore, Chris. Having these terror attacks on a daily, if not weekly basis is not the country that you and I love, and it's not the country that we're used to. This has to stop, and this has to stop now.
You're dead right, Joel. And the other aspect of this, of course, is just emphasising the general weakness and ambivalence even of the Albanese Labor government when it comes to Israel, has been highlighted by these revelations from Sky News that with the 80th anniversary events in Poland next week, marking 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, that the Albanese government was only going to send the Senate President, Sue Lyons, to head up that delegation. I understand there's been an announcement in the last 10 minutes that Penny Wong will be going to that event along with Mark Dreyfus. So the government's reacting to that. But this just shows that they don't get it, or they have no sense of commitment to Israel.
Senator Sue Lyons has to be one of the most vocally anti-Israel members of caucus. The idea that she would be the one and only senior member of government to be sent to the 80th commemoration of the liberation of Auschwitz is another slap in the face to the Jewish community. Now, I have read the reports that the Foreign Minister and the Attorney General will attend that ceremony, but if there's any truth to the matter, that before that announcement was just made in the past 15 minutes, that Senator Lyons, as the President of the Senate, was going to be the one to attend the event, it again illustrates how off the beat this government is. Now, I don't need to tell you, Chris, because it's been plainly obvious, the Prime Minister has been days, if not weeks, behind the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, on this, and he's been like this since day one. On the Wednesday after the event in 2023, Peter Dutton was at the Sydney rally at Dover Heights in front of 10,000 people, whilst the Prime Minister addressed a group of 15, including myself, tucked away in a synagogue in Melbourne. Step by step, including the announcement or the call for a task force and the insistence and call for a national cabinet meeting, has been made by Peter Dutton days, if not weeks, before the Prime Minister. And if the Prime Minister is getting outstepped by the opposition leader at this juncture of the parliamentary calendar, I think that spells a big problem for this government.
Joel Burnie, thanks so much for joining us.